Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are opening a source stack that, while it looks deceptively simple on the
It
surface,
really
we're
does.
deep diving into a world built entirely of blocks, a game almost universally associated with, youthful entertainment.
Right.
But our sources treat it as a powerful scientific instrument. We are talking about the profound cognitive landscape of Minecraft.
Exactly. When we really examine the research you've provided, we find that Minecraft moves far, far beyond the categorization of just mere entertainment.
So it's not just a game.
Not at all. It's framed as a scientifically observable platform for measurable cognitive enrichment, for effective therapeutic intervention, and for powerful social emotional development.
And our mission today is to be your guide through that research. How does this open-ended, procedurally generated universe actually change the structure and function of the human brain?
Well, that's the big question.
We really need to separate the anecdote from the actual empirical evidence.
It creates a fascinating neurobiological tension, doesn't it?
How so?
Because sandbox environments like Minecraft are special. They simultaneously engage a vast spectrum of neural circuits.
So you mean everything at once?
Pretty much. You're using everything from the deep, ancient hippocampal systems responsible for creating spatial memory maps, all the way up to the highly evolved prefrontal cortex for complex executive control.
Wow.
So our goal is to examine the specific biological basis for these immense benefits, and then, crucially, balance that against the very real psychological and physical risks of, well, of excessive engagement.
That's right. We are going to unpack the specific ways this 3D environment changes brain structure and function, looking at concepts like cognitive reserve.
And then the caveats.
And then we'll tackle the necessary caveats related to health, ergonomics, and, yes, the risk of addiction. Okay, let's unpack this.
So where do we start?
Let's start at the foundation, memory and navigation. This whole conversation around the brain benefits, it seems to begin with this concept of environmental enrichment.
It does. Yeah, the concept is really well established. It originated from decades of rodent research,
Right, I remember reading about that.
and it shows that complex, novel, and stimulating environments dramatically boost synaptic density. They even foster the generation of new neurons in adult brains.
So our sources are basically positioning immersive 3D video games like Minecraft specifically.
The ones that require complex spatial mapping, yes, they're positioning them as a direct human proxy for this enrichment.
So if a complex physical environment is like a fitness regimen for the brain, the game is providing that digitally.
That's a great way to think about it.
How exactly does this procedurally generated world force us to create these intricate, cognitive maps that benefit us?
The key lies in the fact that the world is huge, and it's nonlinear.
Okay.
So when you enter a Minecraft world, you are instantly tasked with navigating these vast, topographically diverse biomes that require constant spatial exploration and landmark identification.
That constant mental mapping, that's what's directly tied to improving hippocampal memory function.
Exactly, and a very specific function at that.
Which is,
We're talking about enhancing a process called pattern separation. It's a function localized specifically in the dentate gyrus of the hippocampus.
pattern separation. So that's your brain's ability to distinguish between memories that are really similar, right?
Yes, and to store them separately without confusion.
Can you give us a really concrete example of what that looks like in the game?
Sure. Imagine you have, say, 3 identical-looking mineshaft entrances within 50 blocks of each other.
Okay, I can picture that.
Pattern separation is the mechanism that lets you distinguish between, I already mined entrance A, and I still need to explore entrance C.
So you're forced to notice tiny differences.
Minute differences, exactly.
Yeah.
A specific tree, a rock formation, and you link that detail to a spatial coordinate. This strengthening of neural circuitry for detailed retrieval has shown, well, remarkable results across the lifespan.
That's where the research on older adults comes in, right? That really stood out to me in the source stack.
It's profoundly encouraging. Studies on middle-aged adults, ages 40 to 49, who engaged in just 30 minutes of 3D gaming per day for 4 weeks showed significant improvement in mnemonic similarity tasks, MSTs.
And an MST is just showing 2 images that are almost identical and asking you to spot the difference.
Essentially, yes. It forces the participant to separate those highly similar visual memories.
And the effects, they only become more dramatic as we age.
Absolutely. The research indicated that older adults, those aged 60 to 80, saw their hippocampal-based memory performance match participants 15 to 20 years younger.
After the same amount of time playing?
After similar sustained exposure, yes. It suggests that engaging these 3D systems regularly can act as a powerful countermeasure against age-related cognitive decline.
That is genuinely powerful, just from exploring a digital space. But beyond function, you mentioned structural benefits. How does playing a game build cognitive reserve?
Right. Cognitive reserve is often described as the mind's buffer against disease or damage. It's the overall capacity and resilience of your neural networks.
And the structural changes.
It's rooted in synaptogenesis,
Yeah.
the creation of new synapses and the increase in dendritic density.
Okay, break down the dendrites for us, because that sounds like a very small technical detail that has massive consequences.
It does, absolutely. If you think of a neuron as a central processor like a CPU,
Yeah.
the dendrites are the input ports. They're the receivers of information from other neurons. When a person is faced with all the cognitive demands of navigating, problem solving, and building in the game,
The brain responds by making those dendrites more complex.
denser, more numerous, we're literally building more robust neural highways just by creating complex structures and navigating them.
So the neuroprotective effect is building a bigger, stronger network that is harder to disrupt.
Precisely. This structural resilience is what gives the term cognitive reserve its meaning. We see parallels in animal models, where enrichment reduced the buildup of amyloid beta plaques and neurofibrillary tangles.
The hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease?
Exactly. So the stimulation in Minecraft may be building that reserve, making the brain more resistant to long-term damage.
That makes perfect sense. Now, if the hippocampus handles memory, let's move to the brain's chief conductor, the prefrontal cortex. For the developing brain, I think the sources are right to reframe Minecraft.
How so?
It's less of a sandbox and more of a complex digital laboratory for executive functions.
That's a crucial distinction.
Yes.
Executive functions, or EFs, are those high-level cognitive processes we use to manage thoughts, emotions, and actions to achieve goals.
So working memory, self-control, flexible thinking.
All of it. And Minecraft is perfectly structured to stress test these systems continuously.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the true genius of the game lies in its mechanics, specifically redstone.
Ah, redstone. It's arguably the game's Trojan horse for deep learning. It's an in-game analog to electrical circuitry and complex engineering.
So it's basically forcing players to learn logic gates.
It fundamentally forces them to learn logic, gates, and D-gates, or gates, not gates, which are the foundational building blocks of computer science.
Wait, so a kid building an automated sorting system is essentially learning the core principles that drive silicon chips?
They are, yeah. Building with redstone demands intensive systems thinking. You can't succeed unless you fully grasp how a change in one tiny part of your wiring affects the entire complex mechanism.
Whether it's a giant farm or just a fancy door.
Exactly. This heavy cognitive lifting involves the prefrontal cortex and fosters what researchers call computational creativity, the ability to innovate within rigid logical constraints. It's intellectual weightlifting.
And even if you're not building a simulated computer, just existing in survival mode requires intense planning.
And absolutely, survival mode inherently exercises the attention muscle. You have to constantly engage in multi-step sequential planning under pressure.
You need wood, you need coal, you need shelter, all before nightfall.
Right, and that focus on resource management and long-term goal setting is particularly therapeutic. Well, it provides a structured, low-stakes environment for practicing sustained multi-step tasks, which is often a significant challenge for individuals with ADHD.
Because the goals are internally motivated and the feedback is immediate.
Exactly. If you forget the shelter, you die.
Yeah.
It helps scaffold those essential planning skills.
And that planning process, especially for these huge collaborative builds, it must perfectly mirror real-world project management.
Down to the core structure, yes. The high-level planning involves 1, blueprint visualization, that's spatial reasoning. 2, resource gathering, that's supply chain and logistics.
And then the actual building.
And 3, iterative construction, where you adjust the design on the fly. This whole cycle fosters incredible resilience. When your build fails, or a creeper blows up half your inventory,
You don't quit, you adapt.
you adapt the strategy. It's a classic growth mindset experience.
Now that we've established the cognitive baseline, let's pivot to the clinical applications. The sources heavily emphasize the value of this naturalistic and low-stakes environment, especially for neurodivergent populations like those with ASD and ADHD.
This is where Minecraft moves from a cognitive enhancer to a really powerful therapeutic tool. Traditional social skills training can feel artificial, you know?
A bit confrontational, even.
It can. Minecraft provides a shared language and a safe virtual medium where the stakes are manageable. The breakthrough I find most compelling is using the expert role.
Tell us more about that shift in dynamics.
Many autistic youth have developed an encyclopedic knowledge of the game. So when a therapist joins their world, the child immediately becomes the guide, the master builder, the authority figure.
I love that. It completely shifts the power dynamic.
It fundamentally does. It builds enormous self-esteem and social confidence in the child. They feel comfortable communicating wants, needs, and teaching complex systems to the adult.
So the therapy becomes a collaboration based on competence, not on deficits.
Precisely. And this environment allows for real-time emotional coaching. We see structured programs like Legendland that use deliberately generated in-game events.
Like a controlled failure.
Right, maybe a creeper destroying a small build. They use that to guide the child through real-time emotional regulation coping strategies in a controlled symbolic environment.
The customizable sensory environment must be a massive benefit as well.
It is invaluable. For individuals with sensory sensitivities, you can adjust sounds, visuals, difficulty. Playing in peaceful mode helps dramatically with sensory integration and reduces anxiety.
And for social anxiety, the text-based chat seems to be a huge component.
Absolutely. For those who struggle with face-to-face cues, eye contact, microexpressions, the delay and anonymity of text gives them precious processing time. They can formulate a response without that intense pressure.
This is clearly effective in therapy, and it translates right into the classroom with Minecraft, Education Edition. Our sources cite dramatic increases in student engagement.
And motivation, and even better attendance. The integration across subjects is seamless because the game is fundamentally based on geometry and structure,
Every block is a 1 by 1 by 1 meter cube.
which makes it the perfect spatial tool for teaching perimeter, area, and volume. Students aren't just memorizing formulas, they're performing tangible calculations just by designing a house.
And how about humanities and science?
In literacy, students use their builds as settings for narratives, which aids in visualizing complex texts. In science, the chemistry update lets them combine elements and conduct experiments that might be impossible or too costly in a real lab.
It transforms passive learning into active creation.
That's the key.
Okay, we've thoroughly covered the upsides, but we have to be grounded in the caveats. There is a necessary critical counterpoint here: the potential transition from healthy engagement to internet gaming disorder.
IGD, yes. This is a serious, recognized concern, and the basis is purely biological. It's the brain's reward system.
It's all about dopamine.
It is. When a player achieves a high-value, goal-finding diamonds, completing a redstone circuit, the brain releases a flood of dopamine. This reinforces the behavior, creating a compulsive loop that is exceptionally difficult to break.
Especially for those with already dysregulated reward systems, like individuals with ADHD.
Exactly.
So what does that transition to a disorder actually look like? What are the symptoms?
It follows the standard pattern of behavioral addiction. First, preoccupation, constantly thinking about the game when not playing.
Then withdrawal.
Second, withdrawal, experiencing intense irritability or anxiety when forced to stop. Third is tolerance, needing more and more screen time to get the same buzz.
And the most critical sign.
Functional impairment, actively neglecting essential life duties, hygiene, schoolwork, exercise in favor of gaming.
Beyond addiction, we need to discuss the other health risks, particularly the neurological impact of chronic hyperarousal. The brain processes digital threats as real, doesn't it?
It does. If you suddenly hear a creeper hiss behind you, your body registers that as a genuine threat. It triggers the sympathetic nervous system, releasing cortisol and adrenaline.
A real fight-or-flight response.
A real one. And long-term, repeated cycles of this can lead to difficulties with impulse control and chronic stress.
And the sources cite long-term emotional impacts, too.
Yes. If the primary mode of engagement is high-stress combat, the long-term effects can include decreased compassion and empathy and increased overall anxiety and depression. It often leads to a vicious cycle.
Where kids use the screen to cope with difficulties that the screen is actually making worse.
Precisely. It paradoxically exacerbates those difficulties through constant arousal.
And we can't overlook the physical costs, the sedentary repetitive motion.
The orthopedic risks are undeniable. We're seeing a rise in repetitive strain injuries, RSIs like gamer's thumb, and carpal tunnel syndrome from sustained, rigid wrist positions.
Posture seems to be a huge contributing factor.
It's the root of many chronic pains. The dreaded forward head posture is endemic among gamers. Our sources emphasize a striking finding. For every inch, the head moves forward.
From neutral alignment.
It can add up to 10 pounds of leveraged stress on the cervical spine. This inevitably leads to chronic neck pain and tension headaches.
And the visual and metabolic costs are just as significant.
We see high rates of digital eye strain. It affects over 56% of competitive esports athletes. And metabolically, you have obesity risks. And crucially, the blue light from screens interferes with melatonin production, leading to sleep deprivation.
Which just makes everything else worse.
It compounds all the other negative effects, yes.
So what does this all mean? We have this powerful instrument that can genuinely boost neurocognitive health, but it also presents real risks.
Wow.
How do we harness the benefits without falling into the pitfalls?
This is the crucial policy challenge. The key, as emphasized by groups like the American Academy of Pediatrics, is shifting the focus from simply counting screen time hours to prioritizing the quality and context of engagement.
And they have a framework for that.
They do. A regulatory framework called the 5 C's of media use for promoting positive engagement.
Let's talk through those. They seem really actionable for the listener.
Okay. The first C is child. You have to consider the specific developmental stage and individual needs of the player.
A child with ADHD needs a different approach.
Exactly. The second is content. Is the player focused on high-level cognitive tasks like redstone engineering, or are they engaged in low-value repetitive tasks? Or worse, griefing other players?
And the third C, calm. What's that about?
Calm is monitoring how you use the technology. Don't let the screen become the primary quick fix method for emotional calming.
Okay, that makes sense. And fourth?
Fourth is crowding out. You must rigorously monitor if gaming is displacing essential health behaviors: sleep, physical exercise, face-to-face social interaction. And finally, communication.
Keeping an open, non-judgmental dialogue.
Yes, about their digital life challenges and successes.
Those are fantastic guiding principles. What about immediate physical strategies we can implement?
A simple but powerful strategy is co-playing, actively joining the child in their world, even if you're just watching. This strengthens social bonds and lets you monitor content organically.
And we need to protect their physical health.
Absolutely. Implement the easy-to-remember 20-20-20 rule to prevent eye strain.
Every 20 minutes, a 20-second break, look at something 20 feet away.
Exactly. Ensure proper ergonomic adjustments, monitors at eye level, chairs with lumbar support. And finally, maintain strict tech-free zones.
No screens in the bedroom, no screens during family meals.
To protect sleep and communication.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I feel like we've gone from seeing a digital toy to truly understanding a powerful neurocognitive instrument.
That is the essential synthesis. Minecraft taps into the most ancient human drives, the instinct to build, to navigate, to understand the world, just applied to a digital architecture.
And when it's integrated with intention, following those best practices.
It provides profound neurocognitive benefits across the lifespan, often with greater accessibility than real-world activities.
It makes perfect sense that children are drawn to it so powerfully. They're not just seeking entertainment. They are instinctively recognizing that digital literacy and systems thinking are the skills they need for their future.
And this leads us to the final provocative thought for you to consider. Given the overwhelming strength of this data, particularly for neurodivergent individuals, platforms like Minecraft will likely soon become a standard part of neurodiversity affirmative care.
Moving away from a deficit model.
Exactly. Moving away from trying to fix perceived deficits and focusing instead on leveraging individual strengths. So the question is, what would a school or therapeutic center look like if it were built entirely on the principle that digital creativity and systems thinking are the primary basis for social and emotional development?
A completely new educational paradigm. Something to mull over until our next deep dive. Thank you for guiding us through these sources.
A pleasure.